The old records of the Immortal Astral Continent would remember this pursuit as the moment hunter and prey quietly changed places. After chasing Wang Lin across the Heavenly Bull continent, Du Qing witnessed 16 fire veins consumed, 7 terrifying essences revealed, and even the aura of a Grand Empyrean, enough to turn murderous intent into eager allegiance. Now, while Wang Lin attempts something even rarer, the birth of an essence true body, far away in the Ancient Dao Country, Xuan Luo suddenly opens his eyes. The disciple he once chose has finally arrived. Someone has been arguing beside the tea stove about whether chasing a white-haired cultivator across half a continent still counts as courage after the 17th warning sign. Come closer, fellow Taoists. The tea is hot, the debate is hopeless, and Du Qing has somehow transformed from avenger to volunteer bodyguard faster than a merchant changes prices at closing time. Tonight, our pavilion opens the ancient records at a particularly interesting page, because while one old monster guards Wang Lin's cultivation, another has just sensed his arrival. Far beneath the vast heavens of the Heavenly Bull continent, Du Qing stopped and raised his eyes toward the distant sky. The longer he pursued, the heavier the unease in his heart became. Somewhere ahead was a man he had never truly measured, yet every trace left behind whispered the same warning. This Wang Lin might be far more terrifying than he appeared. For the first time since beginning the chase, hesitation crept into the old ancestor's mind. Should he continue? Or turn back before curiosity became calamity? For a long while, Du Qing remained silent. Then his teeth clenched and the hesitation in his eyes hardened into cold resolve.
I'm not willing to give up now. No matter what, I must catch up and have a look. If all of this is only a false illusion of strength, then I'll kill him. But if his cultivation is truly good enough to equal mine, then I must change how I see this matter. The Blue Dragon sect has already been destroyed. That cannot be changed. If he were instead brought into the Blue Dragon sect, then the sect's influence could rise enormously.
Du Qing was temperamental, but he was no fool. As the old ancestor of a sect, he understood that enemies and allies were sometimes separated by nothing more than circumstance. His thoughts revealed something important. He was no longer chasing Wang Lin purely for vengeance. The possibility that Wang Lin possessed genuine power had already forced him to consider recruitment instead of extermination. In the cultivation world, overwhelming strength could rewrite even fresh hatred. Having made his decision, Du Qing reached into the void. A paper crane appeared between his fingers. He tossed it forward, and in an instant the paper expanded, dissolving into smoke until a spectral crane took shape. With a sharp cry, it flew toward the horizon. Du Qing immediately followed.
With this exotic treasure from the Great Soul sect, that person won't be able to escape for long.
Then, elsewhere across the Heavenly Bull continent, thunder seemed to roll through the earth itself. A colossal vermilion bird wreathed in raging flame burst across the heavens. Wherever it passed, the world distorted beneath the heat. The land dried and cracked, as though even the continent could not endure the furnace blazing above it. Upon the vermilion bird's head stood Wang Lin. His white hair whipped behind him in the burning wind, while his eyes shone with an increasingly brilliant light. Half a month had passed since he devoured the second Earthfire soul. During those 15 days, Wang Lin had not wasted a single opportunity. He raced across the continent, and whenever he encountered another Earthfire vein, he descended upon it and absorbed the soul within. 9 more Earthfire veins had fallen before him. Together with the 2 souls he had already consumed, Wang Lin now possessed 11 Earthfire dragon souls. His fire essence had undergone an astonishing transformation. Compared with the power he possessed back in the cave world, it had already grown to more than twice its former strength. The change was so dramatic that a red gleam seemed to burn within Wang Lin's eyes as he continued devouring Earthfire souls without restraint. This was not ordinary cultivation through years of meditation. Wang Lin had discovered a resource perfectly suited to his fire essence, and every vein he consumed directly strengthened one of his fundamental powers. The Heavenly Bull Continent itself had become his cultivation furnace. And Wang Lin knew he was being followed. He had not yet seen his pursuer, but there was little mystery concerning the person's identity. Among everyone Wang Lin had offended since arriving on the Immortal Astral Continent, there was only one expert who possessed both the strength and the reason to chase him for so long. Du Qing, old ancestor of the Blue Dragon sect.
According to Kang Ran's memories, the old ancestor is at the early stage of void tribulent, but whether that is really true is not something Kang Ren would have been qualified to know. He may truly have passed 9 arcane tribulants and entered the early stage of void tribulent, or he may still only be within the arcane tribulent stage.
Wang Lin would never gamble his life on second-hand information. A weaker cultivator's memory could record reputation, but reputation was not the same as truth. Du Qing's real cultivation realm could determine whether this pursuit ended in slaughter, retreat, or opportunity. Wang Lin therefore treated the worst possibility as real, while continuing to strengthen himself. That caution was one of the reasons he had survived for so long. The vermilion bird beneath him suddenly released a heaven-shaking cry. With every earth fire vein devoured, its speed had increased. It still could not match the Mosquito King, but it was already approaching Wang Lin's own terrifying speed. Flames tore across the sky. The vermilion bird vanished into the distance without leaving even a trace. Half a day later, a streak of light arrived. Du Qing emerged above yet another dead earth fire vein. He had been pursuing Wang Lin for half a month now. The distance between them was slowly shrinking. But Du Qing's expression was becoming darker with every passing day. 9 withered fire veins had appeared along his path, 9 places where the power of the earth had been stripped away before he could arrive. Each one deepened the disbelief in Du Qing's heart until even his original confidence began to crumble.
Another one exclamation, damn it, exclamation. How many does this person intend to devour before he stops? How? I suppose to keep chasing him how? Can I even dare to continue chasing?
The sight of the dead vein below made Du Qing's scalp go numb.
By the time I actually catch him, perhaps I won't merely fail to defeat him. I might be injured by him instead. Then this entire pursuit will become a joke.
Again and again, the same thought rose within him. This was the cruelest part of the chase. Du Qing was not watching Wang Lin weaken from fleeing. He was watching his prey become stronger with every step. The closer Du Qing came physically, the farther victory seemed to retreat. Du Qing hesitated only briefly before roaring toward the heavens. Pride, fear, curiosity, and unwillingness tangled together inside him. He had come too far to retreat without at least seeing Wang Lin's true cultivation with his own eyes.
I have declared to the outside world that I am at the early stage of void tribulent, but the truth is that I'm only at my 7th arcane tribulent. Even so, my firewood body gives me strength far beyond ordinary cultivators. My physical body is like that of the people from the ancient country. I refuse to believe. I cannot fight him, exclamation, even if his cultivation is comparable to mine. His body cannot possibly be as powerful.
With that roar, Du Qing seemed to rebuild his courage. Guided by the smoke crane, he accelerated once more. 7 days passed. By then, the vermilion bird beneath Wang Lin had become even more enormous. Its flaming wings seemed capable of covering the heavens as it crossed the continent. During those 7 days alone, Wang Lin had devoured 3 additional Earth Fire Dragon souls. 14 Earth Fire souls now empowered his flame. His fire essence had reached twice the strength it possessed back in the cave world. Behind him, Du Qing reached another withered vein. His face had gone pale. For an expert who had weathered countless dangers, this pursuit had somehow become a form of torture, unlike anything he had experienced before. It was not torture of flesh, it was torture of the mind. One dead fire vein after another lay beneath his feet, each silently telling him that Wang Lin had passed through here, consumed another source of power, and moved on stronger than before. Du Qing almost wished he had never begun the chase. He would rather damage his cultivation in a direct battle than continue enduring this slow erosion of confidence. 4 more days passed. Somewhere else on the Heavenly Bull continent, the dying roar of another fire dragon echoed beneath the earth. A massive vermilion bird erupted from underground and shot into the sky. Half an hour later, Du Qing appeared once again. He stared blankly at the devastated earth for a long, silent moment.
16.
For a fleeting moment, Du Qing seriously wondered whether this mysterious cultivator surnamed Wang was even human, or some wandering soul born from the earth fire veins themselves, and who could blame him? 16 veins had vanished along a single pursuit route. To Du Qing, every number added another layer of absurdity. To Wang Lin, each one was merely another step forward. 2 days later, Wang Lin reached the northern region of the Heavenly Bull continent, a land crowded with endless mountain ranges, yet no vegetation grew there. Peak after peak was black and barren, casting a suffocating gloom over the landscape. The ground was dry, cracked, and scorched. Heat seeped continuously into the void. This was a remote place rarely visited by cultivators, a region that spent most of its existence in oppressive silence. But that silence was suddenly shattered. A roar exploded from deep within the mountains. It belonged to an earth fire dragon soul, yet it was completely unlike any Wang Lin had encountered before. The sound shook heaven and earth with such force that it almost seemed corporeal. This was not a spiritual cry that only cultivators could sense. Every living being could hear it. For the first time since beginning this relentless feast, Wang Lin had encountered an earth-fire soul he could not simply devour. A gigantic vermilion bird burst from the mountains. Wang Lin stood upon its head and abruptly turned around. Behind him, the entire mountain range trembled. Hundreds of thousands of feet of mountains collapsed as though struck by an invisible divine hammer. From beneath the shattered earth rose a fire dragon whose head alone stretched 100,000 feet across. Its body was so vast that its full length could not even be seen. It was clearly a soul, yet its form possessed such density and majesty that it looked almost real. One glance was enough to reveal that this vein was fundamentally different from the ordinary branches Wang Lin had consumed before.
This is a child branch, not a sub-branch.
Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He had already examined the region carefully, and the overwhelming strength of this soul only reinforced his judgment. A main fire vein could possess countless sub-branches. A child branch, however, was something entirely different. Long ago, such a vein might once have been directly connected to the main vein before separating and becoming an independent existence. In essence, a child vein was truly a child of the main vein. Other than the difference in accumulated strength, its fundamental nature was no different from the parent itself. That distinction explained the monstrous soul before Wang Lin. Devouring ordinary sub-veins was like gathering scattered sparks. A child vein was closer to swallowing an entire furnace. The reward was greater, but so was the resistance.
I wonder how many child veins exist within the Heavenly Bull continent. There obviously shouldn't be many. Devouring one child vein is equivalent to devouring a great number of sub-veins. Since I've encountered one, there's no reason to let it go.
The vermilion bird cried out. Instead of fleeing from the colossal fire dragon, it wheeled around in the sky and charged directly toward it. The earth fire dragon soul answered with savage fury. Endless flames erupted from its enormous body, spreading across hundreds of thousands of feet of sky. Wang Lin and his vermilion bird were swallowed inside the inferno. Fire sealed every direction. Black smoke rolled through the burning heavens, consuming the breathable air. Even space itself twisted beneath the heat. turning the entire battlefield into a blurred and distorted world. Through that furnace, the gigantic fire dragon came charging forward. Its ferocious eyes burned with tyrannical instinct as it aimed directly for Wang Lin's vermilion bird. Wang Lin merely snorted coldly. Powerful though this child vein was, its strength was only comparable to a mid-stage arcane void cultivator. That was not enough to make Wang Lin retreat. His right hand formed a seal, one finger pointed toward the oncoming dragon.
16 earth-fire branch veins. Appear in my name.
The command fell like a decree. Around the vermilion bird, 16 fire dragons suddenly manifested. 16 souls Wang Lin had already conquered now surged forward together, roaring as they crashed toward the colossal child vein dragon. This was where Wang Lin's previous devouring revealed its true strategic value. Those 16 veins were not merely absorbed cultivation. Their power could now be called forth and turned against a stronger fire soul. Every victory behind him had become a weapon for the next battle. And at that exact moment, a streak of light appeared on the distant horizon. Du Qing had finally caught up. Before him floated a cloud-like sea of flame stretching hundreds of feet across. From within came deafening roars. The instant Du Qing heard them, his body trembled violently. Cracks spread across his youthful-looking body. In moments, flesh-like appearance gave way to something stranger. Du Qing transformed into a purple wooden man. Flames erupted from his body and wrapped around the purple wood, yet the fire did not burn or damage him in the slightest. Du Qing possessed a fire essence as well. His fire essence had activated on its own because that tremendous roar carried the fire of the Heavenly Bull sect. Du Qing was himself a fire essence cultivator recognized by the Heavenly Bull continent, and the power before him resonated directly with his essence. An ordinary earth fire vein could never have provoked such a reaction, but this was a child vein, fundamentally no different from the main vein itself. That was enough to awaken Du Qing's fire essence without his command. Du Qing's expression changed. His gaze locked onto the inferno ahead, and through those raging flames, he finally saw the scene he had pursued for so many agonizing days. 16 fire dragons circled a gigantic vermilion bird, joining together to devour another monstrous fire dragon hidden within the sea of flame. And there, standing upon the vermilion bird's head, was a white-haired man dressed in white. Amid the ocean of red fire, that pale figure was impossibly conspicuous. Du Qing could see only Wang Lin's back. Yet in that instant, he felt as though he were not looking at a cultivator at all, but at an immense mountain standing between heaven and earth. After weeks of chasing Wang Lin while imagining every possible level of strength, Du Qing finally obtained the answer he wanted. And the first impression alone was enough to shake him. The hunter had reached his prey, but the balance of power no longer felt anything like a hunt. And now that both fire essence cultivators had arrived at the same battlefield, the true question was no longer whether Du Qing could catch Wang Lin, but what he would dare to do after seeing him.
That's him.
The earth fire raged like a buried dragon awakening beneath the continent. Du Qing stared into that blazing abyss and understood exactly what Wang Lin was attempting.
He's trying to devour the earth fire here, but this earth fire is extraordinary, so he cannot consume it easily. Right now is the best chance to kill him.
Decision flashed through Du Qing's eyes. Without another breath of hesitation, he plunged directly into the sea of fire. The instant Du Qing entered, he saw Wang Lin, and within those roaring flames, Wang Lin sensed him as well. An aura infinitely close to the void tribulent stage rolled from Du Qing's body. After transforming into his wooden body, that terrifying cultivation became even clearer to Wang Lin. Yet Wang Lin remained calm. He had known for a long time that Du Qing was pursuing him, so being caught was never unexpected. There was no panic in his eyes, not even enough concern to make him abandon what he was doing. That calmness was itself a weapon. Du Qing had arrived believing Wang Lin was trapped between devouring the earth fire and defending himself. Wang Lin, however, treated Du Qing's arrival as merely another variable to exploit. Ahead of him, 16 fire dragons and the vermilion bird charged toward the enormous fire dragon formed from the child earth fire vein. The distance vanished, flame met flame. Before Du Qing could interfere, the 16 fire dragons struck the soul of the child earth vein first. A thunderous explosion shook the earth. Standing upon the head of the vermilion bird, Wang Lin pointed downward. The 16 fire dragons roared, their bodies twisted into blazing chains and wrapped around the child earth fire vein soul, binding that colossal dragon from every direction. The vein soul answered with a deafening roar, but the vermilion bird beneath Wang Lin had already charged forward. Its fiery form overlapped with the dragon soul, beginning a violent devouring infusion. Everything happened within a heartbeat. To Du Qing, Wang Lin's entire sequence appeared terrifyingly smooth, without the slightest hesitation or wasted movement. The gigantic fire dragon twisted in agony. Its earlier ferocity faded, replaced by unmistakable pain. Deep within its blazing body, the shadow of the vermilion bird could already be seen, while the white-haired Wang Lin stood between the horns upon its head. Wang Lin lifted his left hand. The 16 chains moved with it, as though all 16 fire dragons had become reins grasped within his palm. It was a sight capable of shaking the heart of any cultivator. Fire surrounded Wang Lin like an imperial robe. Beneath him, even that ancient dragon of earth fire seemed forced to bow its head and become his mount. This was more than spectacle. The image reflected what Wang Lin was doing to the fire itself, not merely resisting it, but forcing a wild and ancient power into submission. The dragon's roar shook heaven. At that very moment, Du Qing burst through the sea of fire and closed in. Wang Lin suddenly raised his head. His left hand pulled the 16 chains. The fire dragon beneath him was forced to raise its enormous head and release a roar as though it wished to tear heaven and earth apart. Waves of flame exploded outward. Then the 16 fiery chains erupted with power. Endless earth fire flowed through them and poured directly into Wang Lin's body. A piercing vermilion bird cry came from within the dragon. Another torrent of earth fire surged upward into Wang Lin, and in that instant, the fire under his command reached a heaven-shattering level. Wang Lin lifted his right hand and swept it through the void. This single wave carried his fire essence, now strengthened several-fold. Its power alone had become equivalent to the combined strength of all Wang Lin's essences back in the cave world. One essence now rivaled the 7 he once possessed. That was why the growth of his fire essence had excited Wang Lin so greatly throughout this journey. This was not a minor increase in cultivation. It was a transformation in the quality of his power. The world rumbled. The surrounding sea of fire rushed toward Wang Lin, fused with the fire essence inside him, and condensed into a colossal handprint. Every fingerprint was visible. It was the image of Wang Lin's own right hand, enlarged thousands of feet into the sky. Burning everything before it, that giant hand tore through the flames toward Du Qing. Du Qing's pupils contracted. His right hand formed a seal, and space around his body distorted violently. The distortion spiraled into a vortex, from which an enormous wooden arm stretched toward Wang Lin's descending handprint. The two attacks collided. Thunder rolled across the world. A terrifying shockwave ripped outward as Wang Lin's handprint collapsed, but the scattered sea of fire immediately engulfed Du Qing's wooden arm, setting it ablaze. Du Qing released a muffled groan and retreated 3 steps, then his head snapped upward. Wang Lin had not moved. He still stood calmly upon the fire dragon. But beneath him, the enormous dragon shuddered. Great sections of its fiery body began collapsing, as though its flesh and skin were being ripped apart from within. Wang Lin had transferred the force of Du Qing's attack directly into the fire dragon. He had deliberately borrowed the strength of his enemy to injure the very earth-fire soul he had not yet managed to devour. Du Qing had attacked Wang Lin, yet the true victim of that strike was Wang Lin's prey. It was a ruthless piece of battlefield calculation. The fire dragon screamed miserably and recoiled. Every section of its body that collapsed made the vermilion bird within it appear clearer. Du Qing's expression darkened. He had understood. This white-haired cultivator was using his power to finish devouring the earth fire. Then Wang Lin finally looked directly at Du Qing. Their cold gazes met for the first time. From that single exchange, Wang Lin had already measured Du Qing's true strength. Du Qing had not entered the void tribulant stage. He remained at the arcane tribulant stage. Judging from the power of the attack, Du Qing surpassed the sovereign, but he was still inferior to terrifying figures such as the seven-colored Taoist and old ghost Zhan. That difference mattered enormously. Wang Lin now knew roughly where Du Qing stood on the ladder of power. Du Qing, however, had learned almost nothing about Wang Lin. In a confrontation between experts, uncertainty could be more dangerous than a visible blade. Du Qing's thoughts raced. Wang Lin's aura seemed to place him, at most, at the peak of spirit void, not even arcane void. Yet everything before Du Qing's eyes rejected that conclusion. A cultivator at merely peak spirit void should never have endured his attack, nor should such a person have been capable of devouring this earth fire. By all reason, Wang Lin's body should have collapsed beneath Du Qing's spell. Instead, his expression had not changed. Worse, he had redirected most of the power into the dragon soul, making his true limits impossible to determine. Du Qing could not bring himself to believe the aura before him. In his mind, there was only one explanation. Wang Lin had concealed his cultivation, just as he must have done when escaping from the Blue Dragon sect. Thus the two men stood amid the sea of fire, each measuring the other, but only Wang Lin had gained a clear answer. Du Qing had always been cautious. Everything he had witnessed during this pursuit had only deepened that instinct. Now that his attack had been repelled, he no longer dared to rush forward blindly.
Who are you? Why did you destroy the Blue Dragon sective? You cannot give me an explanation. Then you can stay here.
Coldness flashed through Du Qing's eyes, but behind that threat lay hesitation.
A disciple of your Blue Dragon sect tried to refine me into a puppet. I merely destroyed your sect and did not kill a single person. That was already me showing kindness.
Even as Wang Lin spoke, his left hand continued controlling the 16 fire dragons. The blazing chains tightened around the great dragon soul. The earth fire soul roared. More of its body collapsed, and the vermilion bird's shadow overlapped increasingly with its enormous form. The devouring was nearing completion. Du Qing's body distorted once more, beginning to transform back into his wooden form. The desperate roar of the child vein resonated with the fire essence inside him, making his own flames restless.
What a joke! Exclamation. You killed thousands of disciples of my Blue Dragon sect, yet you claim you did not kill anyone.
Du Qing stared first at Wang Lin, then at the fire dragon beneath him. Again, hesitation entered his heart. Everything about Wang Lin felt mysterious. Every new thing Du Qing witnessed stripped away another layer of his confidence. And that may have been Wang Lin's greatest advantage at this moment. Du Qing possessed terrifying cultivation, but he was fighting an opponent whose limits he could not see, whose techniques he could not predict, and whose calmness refused to reveal weakness. Wang Lin did not bother answering again. Standing upon the fire dragon, he continued pouring his attention into the fire essence and the final stages of devouring the dragon's soul. For a brief moment, an eerie calm settled between the two experts. Then the child earth fire vein soul released an extraordinarily mournful and anxious roar. The flames belonging to Du Qing began moving beyond his control. The coldness in his eyes intensified. If he continued ignoring this call from the earth fire, even his own fire essence might begin rejecting him. Now Du Qing faced a cruel choice. Remaining cautious gave Wang Lin more time to finish the devouring, yet attacking risked once again becoming a tool in Wang Lin's hands. The longer he waited, the worse his position became.
Give me an explanation.
Du Qing finally abandoned hesitation and charged. Wang Lin sneered. He pointed toward the heavens. The sky thundered. Clouds churned like a celestial army gathering above the battlefield, and an enormous palm print appeared high overhead. The war spirit print. The instant it manifested, heaven and earth seemed to lose their color. The gigantic print descended straight toward Du Qing. Du Qing's expression changed drastically.
The world sect's grand. Handprint the war spirit print exclamation. You are from the world sect of the Soul Cloud Continent.
Those words made Wang Lin's heart stir, but as the war spirit print continued descending, his hands did not stop. He formed another seal and pointed toward the sky. 7-colored light instantly flooded the surroundings. Radiance gathered before Wang Lin, compressed, and transformed into a brilliant 7-colored lance. Du Qing's pupils shrank again. Horror replaced aggression. Instead of advancing, he immediately retreated several steps.
The Donglin sect 7-colored spell exclamation. You. Are you from the world sect, or are you a disciple of the Donglin sect?
Wang Lin answered with only 4 words.
What do you think?
It was a devastating answer, precisely because it explained nothing. Du Qing wanted certainty. Wang Lin gave him another mystery. Then Wang Lin raised his right hand. Millions of restrictions erupted from his palm and flew into the heavens. The world changed color once more. Above Du Qing appeared an enormous ancient umbrella, vast enough to make the surrounding flames seem insignificant. Du Qing's body trembled. Disbelief filled his face. He instinctively retreated again, and this time there was undisguised fear in his eyes.
The 3 Dao sect, the strongest sect among the 72 continents, personally appointed by the Celestial Emperor. Song Yun Dao's secret spell that is never passed to outsiders. The realm-burning umbrella.
Du Qing's face turned deathly pale. His scalp went numb. He could no longer convince himself that Wang Lin had secretly stolen these techniques. The war spirit print, the 7-colored spell, and now the realm-burning umbrella all appeared far too authentic. One forbidden inheritance might be explained away. 3 supreme spells belonging to 3 terrifying powers shattered that possibility. In Du Qing's eyes, Wang Lin was no longer simply a mysterious cultivator. He had become an impossible existence whose background could threaten far more than the Blue Dragon sect. And that was the brilliance of Wang Lin's display. Every spell answered one question only by creating several more. The stronger Du Qing's knowledge of the Immortal Astral Continent, the more terrifying those unanswered questions became. Du Qing stared at the white-haired man standing amid bound dragons and raging earth fire. His earlier killing intent had been buried beneath dread.
Who the hell are you?
Du Qing had cultivated through countless years and endured more than most cultivators could imagine. His very body had become wood, tempered by time, tribulation, and the long erosion of mortal emotion. He believed he had already seen enough of life that very little could truly frighten him. Yet the white-haired cultivator before him had shattered that confidence again and again. More than once, a cold numbness had crawled across Du Qing's scalp. Not because Wang Lin had crushed him with overwhelming cultivation, but because everything surrounding this man refused to make sense. First came the withered earth fire veins. Then, after Du Qing finally caught up, Wang Lin casually displayed spells belonging to the Donglin sect, the World sect, and the 3 Dao sect. For an expert like Du Qing, this was more disturbing than raw strength. Cultivation could be measured. Realms could be compared, but Wang Lin's identity could not. Every answer only revealed another layer of mystery beneath it. As Du Qing retreated 100 steps, countless possibilities flashed through his mind.
Perhaps he truly stole these spells, slipping into those sects and secretly learning techniques that are never passed to outsiders. Or his background is deep enough that those sects willingly gave them to him.
His expression changed again. If Wang Lin had stolen everything, then this white-haired cultivator was extraordinarily cunning, skilled at concealing both his history and perhaps even his real cultivation. Dangerous, certainly, but still someone Du Qing believed he could kill. But the second possibility caused Du Qing's pupils to contract.
If it is the latter, then this man cannot be provoked. Getting techniques from the Dong Lin sect and the World sect would already be astonishing, but Song Yun Dao of the Three Dao sect was personally appointed by the Celestial Emperor, for even he to hand over the realm-burning umbrella. What kind of background could possibly make that happen?
A terrifying possibility entered his mind, and the color drained further from his face. Du Qing tried to conceal his turmoil, but Wang Lin's gaze was too sharp. Standing atop the enormous dragon soul, Wang Lin continued absorbing the power of the earth fire. The process was not yet complete. He did not fear interruption, but uninterrupted absorption would obviously be far more advantageous. Originally, Wang Lin had prepared himself for a vicious confrontation. Now, watching Du Qing hesitate under the weight of his own suspicions, Wang Lin realized that perhaps raw force would not be necessary. This was Wang Lin's true advantage. He did not need Du Qing to understand him. He only needed Du Qing to doubt himself. Against an experienced cultivator, uncertainty could become a weapon sharper than any flying sword.
Do you still wish to battle me?
His calm voice spread across heaven and earth, carrying neither haste nor fear. From atop the dragon's head, those few words possessed a quiet majesty that made Du Qing's suspicions deepen. But Du Qing had survived too many years to surrender solely to intimidation. His thoughts turned sharply. Perhaps the chance of Wang Lin possessing such a terrifying background was actually small. Perhaps these three great sect techniques were all he had. Perhaps Wang Lin had deliberately revealed them one after another for one reason: to frighten him away. A laugh escaped Du Qing, then he charged. Space distorted around his body, revealing that strange purple wooden form. Flames surged from within him, rapidly surrounding his figure, until he looked like a burning apparition crossing the heavens.
I refuse to believe you can produce a fourth spell from another great sect.
Wang Lin laughed. There was something unmistakably mocking within that laughter. The instant Du Qing heard it, his heart trembled. Wang Lin remained seated while controlling the 16 fire dragon chains. Then his right hand rose toward the heavens. Black wind swallowed the surroundings. It churned across the sky like an ancient storm, and terrible roars echoed from its depths. Within that darkness, 13 black dragons twisted and surged. The 13 dragons opened their jaws together and released winds of extinction. Countless drops of rain were swept into the gale, as though a dragon king had commanded the heavens themselves to pour down judgment. But this was no ordinary rain. Every falling drop erupted with dazzling golden radiance, transformed into a soul, and screamed through the storm toward Du Qing.
Call the wind. Summon the rain. Magic arsenal lands collapse. Mountains crumble.
The earth answered him with thunder. Great cracks ripped across the land. Above the earth fire vein, illusory volcanoes rose one after another, then erupted together. Black smoke billowed upward while torrents of lava burst into the world.
Dark moon, clear sky.
Wang Lin pointed upward. Within the blackened heavens, a brilliant moon suddenly appeared. It was broad daylight. That alone made the moon's appearance deeply unnatural. The instant the moon manifested, Wang Lin pointed toward the charging Du Qing. A lunar mark appeared upon Du Qing's face and began spreading with terrifying speed. Wang Lin rose upon the head of the fire dragon, swept his sleeve and looked down upon the man whose confidence had once again been shaken.
And what do you think of this spell?
Dark Moon. Sect the first spell of the Dark Moon arc.
Thunder seemed to explode inside Du Qing's mind. The Dark Moon sect was one of the 9 sects and 13 factions of the Eastern continent. Wang Lin had not merely produced another impressive technique. He had answered Du Qing's challenge with exactly what Du Qing had declared impossible. This 4th inheritance changed the psychological balance completely. 3 could perhaps be coincidence, theft, or deception. 4 made every explanation more dangerous. Wang Lin was turning Du Qing's knowledge of the Immortal Astral Continent against him. The more Du Qing knew, the more frightening the implications became. Du Qing abruptly raised his head. His eyes had turned bloodshot. Shock had battered his confidence again and again, but another force now chained him to the battlefield: pride. He had pursued Wang Lin for so long. After all that, how could he simply retreat? He had barely attacked once. To flee now would mean admitting defeat without truly testing the man before him.
So what if you possess spells from many other sects? Your cultivation must be beneath mine. Otherwise, why would you rely on all these methods just to stop me? All of this only proves that you do not dare attack me directly.
Du Qing had reached the point where retreat felt almost as unbearable as battle. He forcibly suppressed the unease in his heart and committed himself completely. He swept out his right hand. Vast quantities of fire poured from his wooden body and condensed above his palm. At the same time, dense purple gas emerged from within him, merging into that inferno as he advanced toward Wang Lin.
This old man obtained every bit of his cultivation through his own strength. I may not possess your collection of elaborate spells, but I have 3 essences. With those 3 essences, I endured the arcane turbulence. Why should I fear someone like you, who possesses only fire essence? Today, this old man will see exactly how many essences give you the right to be so arrogant.
Fire and purple gas fused into a vast sea of violet flame. Its light stained the heavens while waves of terrible heat rolled outward from Du Qing.
Great Earth Essence.
He stepped forward and reached toward the land with his left hand. The ground shuddered. Cracks spread violently across the earth, and tiny yellow crystals, resembling grains of sand, rose into the air. They gathered before his palm as a dense cloud of yellow mist. Within that mist pulsed an overwhelming earth essence aura. As it spread, the surrounding land distorted, and the entire region seemed to transform into a boundless desert beneath Du Qing's feet.
Weight Essence.
Du Qing raised his head and roared. This 3rd essence was especially important. His strange wooden body was one reason he had become an arcane void cultivator and survived several arcane tribulants, but weight essence was another crucial foundation of his strength. Even the protection he received from the Great Soul Sect was connected to this rare comprehension. Weight essence concerned the weight of all things, from something as insignificant as a grain of sand to something as enormous as an entire continent. At deeper levels, it encompassed the transformations and variations of weight itself, allowing a cultivator to alter that weight with a thought. Such an essence was uncommon even upon the Immortal Astral Continent, because comprehension alone was not enough. Talent was required. Du Qing had not originally possessed that qualification, but the wooden body he obtained contained a trace of weight essence. Through that opportunity he had slowly grasped it for himself. The essence itself remained invisible, yet the transformation it caused was terrifying. Du Qing imposed weight upon his purple sea of fire. Since ancient times, cultivators had held 2 opposing understandings of flame. One school believed fire possessed weight, the other regarded flame merely as a phenomenon, and therefore weightless. The debate had never truly ended, but Du Qing did not need philosophy to settle it. With weight essence, his flames gained weight because he commanded them to. Their destructive power immediately surged. At the same time, the yellow earth essence gathered around Du Qing's left hand was transformed by that same weight essence. In that instant, it no longer seemed as though Du Qing held a cloud of sand. It felt as though he were carrying the weight of a continent in his palm. This was why Du Qing could not be dismissed merely because Wang Lin had shaken him psychologically. Once the three essences emerged together, the difference in cultivation became brutally real. Fire supplied destruction. Earth supplied substance and stability. Weight magnified both. His strongest foundation was not some borrowed secret art. It was the Tao he had personally survived tribulations to comprehend. Everything happened within a heartbeat. Surrounded by three essences, Du Qing charged forward like a war celestial descending upon the mortal world.
I no longer care who you are die for this old man.
Wang Lin remained atop the fire dragon's soul, but his pupils contracted. He immediately sent a thought through his connection with the dragon. The fire dragon roared and retreated. At the same instant, every great spell Wang Lin had prepared surged toward Du Qing. The seven-colored lance tore through the air. The war spirit print descended with crushing might. The ancient umbrella opened. Dark moon, clear sky shone inside the black storm. Each technique carried a famous name upon the Immortal Astral Continent. Together, they represented the full force Wang Lin could unleash under his current circumstances. The fire dragon soul beneath him was crucial. Wang Lin was connected to it, allowing the dragon to absorb and offset much of the aftershock that would otherwise strike him directly. With that protection, he could truly contend with Du Qing. And Wang Lin was hardly a man who would shrink from battle merely because his opponent possessed a higher cultivation. He had sealed the sovereign. He had dared to fight Old Ghost Jian and the seven-colored Taoist. Compared with enemies of that caliber, Du Qing was formidable. But he was not enough to make Wang Lin lose his nerve. There was only one major restriction holding Wang Lin back. He still could not open his storage space. If that restriction disappeared, and the Yixi puppet could be summoned, Du Qing would unquestionably be placed at a devastating disadvantage. Then the two forces collided. Thunderous explosions rolled through heaven and earth. Du Qing had not even relied upon elaborate spells. His three essences themselves were already his most terrifying weapons. Under their combined force, Wang Lin's four great techniques began collapsing one after another. The seven-colored lance shattered. The war spirit print broke apart. The ancient umbrella and the power of dark moon, clear sky were overwhelmed as violent shockwaves tore outward. Even after destroying those four attacks, the remaining force of Du Qing's essences continued forward. It struck the fire dragon's soul beneath Wang Lin. The dragon could endure no more. With a mournful cry, its massive form collapsed, transforming into a gigantic sphere of fire that swallowed Wang Lin completely. For the first time in this confrontation, Du Qing's decision to stop doubting and trust his own cultivation appeared justified. Wang Lin's celebrated techniques had all been smashed aside. The dragon protecting him was gone. The path to a killing blow seemed open. Du Qing surged through the storm of collapsing spells without stopping. He drove straight toward the blazing sphere, determined to close the remaining distance and finish Wang Lin before another mystery could appear. But just as victory seemed close enough to seize, a calm voice emerged from inside the inferno.
Do you truly think I possess only one essence? Do you truly believe three essences are many?
Had those words come from anyone else, Du Qing might have dismissed them as desperate bravado. But they came from Wang Lin, the same man who had already answered every doubt with another impossible revelation. And for reasons Du Qing himself could not explain, his heart trembled once more. That final question carried more danger than any spell Wang Lin had shown so far. Du Qing had staked everything on the belief that three essences gave him absolute superiority. If that belief was also wrong, then the battle he had forced himself to continue might have just entered an entirely different realm. The Earth Fire Dragon collapsed in a storm of blazing force, its enormous body folded inward, transforming into a colossal fireball that swallowed Wang Lin whole. Around that burning sphere, the 16 remaining fire dragons roared toward the heavens, then plunged forward one after another, fusing into the flames. Within the raging fire, a shadow gradually emerged, the indistinct outline of a vermilion bird. From afar, the enormous sphere resembled a fiery egg suspended between heaven and earth, as though some terrifying transformation was taking place inside. Then Wang Lin's voice echoed outward, the surface of the fireball facing Du Qing twisted like molten metal, slowly forming a human face. Cold eyes appeared first, followed by familiar features. It was Wang Lin.
Merely 3 essences, thunder essence, appear.
Thunder answered him. Explosive rumbles rolled across the heavens, and the color of the world itself seemed to change. Bolts gathered from every direction until the sky appeared filled with an endless sea of lightning. Amid that gathering thunder, the illusion of a gigantic war chariot appeared. It seemed forged from ancient bronze, yet every part of it was actually condensed lightning. 6 enormous thunderbolts stretched before the chariot like divine beasts dragging it across the heavens. A blurry figure stood upon that thunder chariot, wrapped in a blue cloak. Its features could not be seen, but the mere apparition carried an ancient and overwhelming majesty.
This is the Thunder War Chariot of the Thunder Essence ! Only someone whose Thunder Essence has reached terrifying profundity could create a phenomenon like this ! He doesn't merely possess Fire Essence, he has Thunder Essence as well.
Du Qing was not astonished simply because Wang Lin possessed 2 essences. What truly shook him was the level of resonance Wang Lin's Thunder Essence had produced. To an expert like Du Qing, heavenly phenomena were evidence. The grander the manifestation, the deeper the cultivator's comprehension, and Wang Lin's thunder had just announced that it was anything but ordinary.
Life and death essence, appear.
White mist descended from the heavens, black mist rose from the earth. Before Wang Lin, the 2 currents intertwined and became a slowly rotating vortex. Life and death, 2 forces that should have opposed one another, existed within that vortex in perfect union. Wang Lin had already tested this after reaching the Immortal Astral Continent. His ethereal essences were not suppressed by this new world.
Ethereal Essence! This person, he's the same as me! 2 corporeal essences, and 1 ethereal essence.
Du Qing's expression darkened. This was already the absolute limit of what he had imagined. Until now, he had believed Wang Lin possessed only 1 corporeal essence and 1 ethereal essence.
So this is why you're so arrogant! 3 essence 7. If you have 3.
3 karma essence, true and false essence, come out.
Du Qing's unfinished challenge died in his throat. His heart jolted as 2 more vortexes materialized before Wang Lin. 1 vortex shifted endlessly between reality and illusion. Merely looking at it made Du Qing feel as though his mind were being dragged away from the real world and swallowed into a false one.
This.
The second vortex contained karma. Its transformations were vast, tangled and impossibly profound, like countless causes and consequences woven together into a grand Dao no ordinary gaze could unravel.
3 ethereal essences, 3 ! What kind of fortune does this man possess to obtain 3 ethereal essences?
Shock finally pushed Du Qing backward. He retreated several steps without realizing it, and even the fire and earth essences gathered in his hands dimmed.
3 ethereal and 2 corporeal 5 essences! What kind of talent allows someone to possess 5 essences 7 within the Great Soul Sect? I've never heard of such a thing.
Only now did Du Qing remember his earlier arrogance. He had called 3 essences insignificant. Before Wang Lin, those words had become almost laughable. The balance of the confrontation was changing without Wang Lin throwing a single new attack. He was defeating Du Qing's confidence first, revealing one layer of his foundation after another, until pursuit itself began to look suicidal.
So what if you have 5? Essences possessing more essences doesn't necessarily mean you're stronger.
Du Qing forced the words out through gritted teeth. Yet before that fragile courage could steady him, the face within the fireball spoke again.
5 slaughter essence, appear.
A crack opened between the brows of Wang Lin's fiery face. From it erupted a chilling intent saturated with slaughter. The aura swept across heaven and earth, dense enough to make the world itself seem murderous. Then red snow began to fall. Flake after flake descended from the sky until the land beneath them was stained crimson. Du Qing retreated again, the fear in his eyes transformed into something far worse, terror.
Slaughter, slaughter essence, exclamation. It's actually the slaughter essence, exclamation. You possess the slaughter essence.
On the Immortal Astral Continent, slaughter essence was even rarer than Du Qing's weight essence. A cultivator who possessed that essence alone could already become a ruler among experts. In Du Qing's understanding, slaughter essence could only be born from hands steeped in blood, from ending countless lives until slaughter itself became a Dao.
Damn it, exclamation. He actually possesses slaughter essence. Just how many people has he killed? This man is vicious, beyond belief.
Restriction essence, appear.
Those words struck Du Qing harder than a physical blow. He was driven backward more than 100 feet as blood-colored lines appeared within Wang Lin's eyes. The lines flew outward and intertwined, forming a restriction in the air. An unmistakable essence aura erupted from it.
7 exclamation, not 6 7 exclamation, he.
Du Qing retreated yet again, staring at the 7 essences suspended between himself and Wang Lin. His scalp went numb. Thunder seemed to explode inside his mind. The shocks had come too quickly. Fire, thunder, life and death, true and false, karma, slaughter, restriction. Each revelation had shattered another part of Du Qing's assumptions until one thought began repeating relentlessly in his heart. Escape.
7 essences spells belonging to powerful sects. The ability to forcibly absorb an earth-fire vein, even his thunder, can trigger such a phenomenon. This kind of person cannot be provoked.
It was not that Du Qing lacked cultivation or courage. What frightened him was uncertainty. If this was what Wang Lin had willingly revealed, then what else remained hidden? That uncertainty was more dangerous than a known cultivation gap. Against an opponent whose limits could not be measured, every exchange became a gamble with one's life. Du Qing no longer knew whether the next thing Wang Lin revealed would merely surprise him or kill him. Du Qing also remembered their previous exchanges. He had attacked Wang Lin twice, yet neither attack had truly injured him. From that alone, he could infer that even if Wang Lin's cultivation was below his own, the difference could not be great. Add Wang Lin's mysterious origin, 7 essences, strange spells and unknown hidden cards to that equation, and Du Qing's cautious nature gave him only one sensible conclusion. This battle was no longer worth fighting. Yet pride was still pride. He had pursued Wang Lin this far. If he simply turned around and fled without saying anything, the humiliation would be unbearable.
So what if you have 7 essencesto, you dare come out and fight me?
The challenge rang loudly across the battlefield, but beneath the bravado was a man whose feet were already prepared to retreat.
Do you really want to fight?
The eyes within Wang Lin's fiery face suddenly lit up. At the same instant, terrifying pressure erupted from the fireball. That pressure swept outward like an invisible tide. Du Qing's fear instantly intensified. This time he did not hesitate. He retreated at full speed, horror plain upon his face. Then golden light began spreading from Wang Lin's distorted face. It expanded farther and farther, radiant like a newborn sun. From within the fireball, a golden print roughly the size of a human head slowly emerged. The moment it appeared, golden radiance flooded the surroundings. One aura within it carried an incomparably pure celestial bloodline. But beneath that purity was something else, a trace of power so profound that Du Qing's breath caught in his throat. There was not much of that mysterious power, yet the tiny amount contained within the golden print seemed capable of splitting heaven from earth. To anyone capable of recognizing what it represented, that aura was enough to drive the heart into madness.
Grand Empyrean.
Blood appeared at the corner of Du Qing's mouth. He continued retreating. The shock carried by the golden print had directly wounded his origin soul. He understood immediately. This was no ordinary treasure. It was a spell condensed into physical form by a Grand Empyrean. And at that moment, the actual destructive strength of the treasure became almost irrelevant. Its true purpose was status. It was a warning carved into divine power. The person carrying this treasure stood beneath the protection of an existence no ordinary sect could afford to offend. Such a treasure could intimidate almost anyone, not merely Du Qing. Even the great soul sect, even the powerful sects spread across the Heavenly Bull continent, would have to tremble before the implication hidden within that golden light. On the Immortal Astral Continent, cultivators understood a simple truth. Treasures of this nature could not casually change hands. Unless a Grand Empyrean had personally bestowed one upon its owner, the treasure would collapse when taken by someone else. Grand Empyreans commonly gave such objects to their closest disciples. No proclamation was required. The treasure itself declared the message to the world. This person was protected. Touch them, and one might be challenging the Grand Empyrean standing behind them. Du Qing could not determine which Grand Empyrean had created the golden print. Despite the countless years he had cultivated, he had never even been qualified to personally meet one. But he did not need a name. That overwhelming aura, surpassing every powerful cultivator he had ever encountered, could belong to only one level of existence. Du Qing coughed out a mouthful of blood, and then something almost absurd happened. The expert who had relentlessly hunted Wang Lin stared at him, as though Wang Lin had personally wronged him.
Damn it! Exclamation. If you possessed that kind of treasure, why didn't you take it out earlier? If you'd shown me this from the beginning, only a ghost would have continued chasing you! Exclamation. Even if you had slaughtered the entire Blue Dragon sect, I would have pretended I saw nothing. You're too vicious! Exclamation. Simply too vicious! Exclamation. There's nobody else like you.
Even Wang Lin was momentarily stunned by Du Qing's reaction. He had expected the golden print to intimidate the man, but not to such an extraordinary degree. In the end, Wang Lin had not needed to defeat Du Qing through brute force. 7 essences shattered the man's confidence, and the golden print destroyed what remained of his willingness to fight. The hunter had finally understood the terrifying possibility before him. Wang Lin's greatest weapon might not be any single spell, but the fact that no one could see where his true foundation ended. And if even a void-tribulent cultivator like Du Qing could be frightened into retreat by one more revealed card, the question hanging over the Immortal Astral Continent was no longer whether Wang Lin possessed hidden methods. It was how many more he had yet to show. The golden print hovered within the inferno, carrying a pressure that even Du Qing did not dare to challenge. Wang Lin's eyes suddenly brightened. The enormous face formed upon the blazing fireball opened its mouth, and with a single deep inhalation, the golden print vanished into it. In that same instant, the golden radiance illuminating heaven and earth disappeared without a trace. The terrifying aura belonging to a Grand Empyrean faded with it, leaving behind only the roar of the surrounding flames.
I won't send you off.
Wang Lin calmly put the golden print away. Du Qing, meanwhile, finally released the breath he had been holding. He retreated several steps, already preparing to leave this dangerous place as quickly as possible. The pursuit had shattered Du Qing's confidence again and again. Wang Lin had repeatedly displayed methods beyond his expectations. But the final blow to his fighting spirit had been that golden print. The moment the aura of a Grand Empyrean appeared, every remaining thought of battle died within him. This was more than simple fear. In Du Qing's eyes, the balance of power had fundamentally changed. Wang Lin was already difficult enough to deal with personally. If a Grand Empyrean truly stood behind him, continuing the conflict would no longer be courage. It would be suicide. Du Qing backed away a full 100 feet, bitterness boiling in his chest.
Vicious exclamation, simply too vicious.
Yet just as he was about to flee, Du Qing abruptly stopped. His wooden body turned toward the gigantic fireball surrounding Wang Lin, and a completely different thought flashed through his mind. This man possessed an astonishing background. More importantly, he carried a treasure bestowed by a Grand Empyrean. Why should such an encounter be treated merely as disaster? To Du Qing, it suddenly looked like fortune descending from the heavens. Du Qing's thinking changed with remarkable speed. Moments earlier, Wang Lin had been an enemy too dangerous to provoke. Now, that very danger became proof of Wang Lin's value. If Du Qing could transform hostility into connection, then the terrifying opponent before him might become the bridge to a far greater world. If he could receive even a few pointers from a Grand Empyrean, his cultivation might advance tremendously. If he could attach himself to Wang Lin's mysterious background, then perhaps even the Great Soul Sect would no longer be something he needed to fear. And there was another temptation. Du Qing had long been forced to hand valuable treasures over to the Great Soul Sect. With a sufficiently powerful backing, perhaps those humiliating days could finally end. His depression vanished. Excitement took its place. Any sect on the Heavenly Bull continent, he reasoned, would go mad if they learned that Wang Lin possessed an object personally gifted by a Grand Empyrean. They would invite him as an honored guest and satisfy almost any request. Even better, Du Qing believed that for now, he alone understood this secret. That meant the opportunity belonged to him alone. He did not even care which Grand Empyrean stood behind Wang Lin. Any one of them represented a height that ordinary cultivators could spend their entire lives staring toward without ever reaching. Du Qing possessed a body of wood and no true heart, yet at that moment his excitement was so intense that he almost imagined hearing a heartbeat thunder inside his chest.
Aha! Exclamation, a heavenly fortune! Exclamation. This is truly a heavenly fortune.
His eyes shone. He stared at Wang Lin's fireball, drew a deep breath, and forced his face into the friendliest smile he could manage.
A misunderstanding! Exclamation. Fellow cultivator, everything before was simply a misunderstanding. I merely thought the Blue Dragon sect had grown too old and should be rebuilt. Fellow cultivator happened to arrive and help me accomplish exactly that. In truth, I chased after you because I wished to thank you.
Du Qing delivered those words without even blinking. Wang Lin looked at him with an expression caught somewhere between amusement and scrutiny. That gaze seemed capable of peeling away every layer of Du Qing's sudden friendliness.
Oh.
Du Qing refused to retreat beneath that gaze. If Wang Lin distrusted him now, this heaven-sent opportunity might disappear forever.
Fellow cultivator is devouring this fire, and such a matter cannot be disturbed. How could I possibly leave? Rest assured, I will guard this place personally, and allow no one to approach you.
Afraid that words alone were insufficient, Du Qing raised his hand and pointed toward the heavens.
With the laws of the Immortal Astral Continent above as witness, today I shall guard fellow cultivator without the slightest evil intention. If I betray this oath, may heavenly thunder destroy my Dao and scatter my soul.
A streak of red light immediately appeared. It carried Du Qing's oath, pierced through the sky, and vanished into the distance. On the Immortal Astral Continent, such an oath was no empty ceremony. The laws of the continent itself served as witness, and because the consequences were severe, few cultivators willingly broke one. Du Qing had now placed himself inside a cage of his own choosing. He wanted Wang Lin's trust badly enough to surrender freedom of action. For Wang Lin, that made the situation considerably safer. Du Qing's greed had become a leash. Wang Lin studied him for another moment, his gaze deep and meaningful.
Forget it. Since you insist, I'll give you the opportunity to guard me.
Du Qing's spirits immediately soared. His greatest concern had been that the hostility from their previous encounter would leave Wang Lin permanently wary of him. If that happened, the door to this imagined great fortune would close before he ever stepped through it. Now that Wang Lin had agreed, Du Qing's expression became solemn. He nodded with all the gravity of a loyal guardian.
Fellow cultivator Wang can rest assured. This old man will risk his life to keep you safe.
He stepped forward and rose 1,000 feet into the air before sitting cross-legged. His divine sense spread outward, blanketing the surrounding region, while deliberately avoiding Wang Lin's immediate vicinity. It was another careful gesture. Du Qing wanted Wang Lin to know that he truly intended to guard the perimeter rather than spy upon his cultivation. Wang Lin's expression never changed. Du Qing had hardly concealed his real objective, and Wang Lin understood it perfectly. Everything had changed because of the golden print. Du Qing wanted access to the Grand Empyrean he believed had bestowed that treasure upon Wang Lin. Yet Wang Lin had reasons of his own to accept. This was his first time on the Immortal Astral Continent. There were countless customs, powers, secrets, and relationships that he did not understand, and many of them could not simply be learned by searching someone's soul. Du Qing was therefore useful, not merely as a guard, but as a living guide to this unfamiliar world. More importantly, Du Qing had volunteered. Wang Lin had not begged for assistance or revealed weakness. That meant the initiative remained entirely in Wang Lin's hands. In a world of cultivation, where favors could become chains, that difference mattered greatly. A cold smile flickered within Wang Lin's heart. Then he closed his eyes and gradually concealed himself within the blazing sphere. Du Qing took his oath seriously. His divine sense repeatedly swept the surrounding region, searching for the slightest threat. He was determined to perform perfectly and erase every trace of the unpleasant encounter that had come before. Time flowed quietly beneath the flames. 1 day became 2, then 3 days passed. Throughout those 3 days, Wang Lin kept a thin strand of divine sense outside the fireball, never completely lowering his guard against Du Qing. The rest of his concentration was devoted to absorbing the tremendous fire essence contained within the sphere. This fireball had been formed from a child vein rather than a mere branch vein. Its fire essence was vast, dense, and difficult to absorb. Hidden within that blazing power were even traces of law. And those laws contained something even more profound, the will of fire itself. Wang Lin's task was therefore not as simple as swallowing energy. Fire essence was the power, but the will of fire was the principle governing that power. To truly make this opportunity his own, he had to devour both. The 16 fire dragons that had once coiled around the enormous sphere slowly faded during those 3 days. One after another, their forms merged back into the fireball until they could no longer be distinguished. Then a new will of fire began spreading outward. Du Qing was the first to sense it. His eyes shifted toward the fireball, but he remained silent. On the 5th day, dawn climbed over the horizon and scattered the darkness. At that exact moment, an earth-shaking roar exploded from Wang Lin's fireball. The rumbling rolled across the land like heavenly drums. Under that tremendous pressure, the gigantic sphere of fire began collapsing inward until its diameter was only 100 feet. Within the raging flames, Wang Lin's figure could faintly be seen. Circling around him was the majestic outline of a vermilion bird. A piercing vermilion bird cry rang out from inside the sphere. The fireball continued shrinking, slowly but inexorably. Hours later, only 70 feet remained. Yet the smaller it became, the more astonishing the aura inside it grew. A tremendous will of fire spread from that 70-foot sphere and covered the surrounding world. It did not merely exist beneath the pressure of the heavenly bull continent's earth fire, it seemed to challenge it. It was as though two sovereign wills of flame had appeared upon the same land. One belonged to the vast earth fire vein running beneath the heavenly bull continent. The other came from the 70-foot fireball before Du Qing. Du Qing stared, unable to conceal his astonishment.
As expected of someone worthy of receiving a treasure from a Grand Empyrean, his fire essence can actually contend with the will of the earth fire here.
Du Qing's assumption about Wang Lin's backing remained mistaken, but that misunderstanding made every feat Wang Lin displayed seem even more reasonable. Instead of questioning how Wang Lin could accomplish something so extraordinary, Du Qing simply used the imagined Grand Empyrean behind him as the answer. The next instant, the roaring became even more violent. The 70-foot sphere compressed to 30 feet. Then Wang Lin stepped out of the flames. His white hair danced wildly in the fiery wind. Without hesitation, he sat beside the remaining fireball. His expression became solemn. His hand formed a seal, and his finger pointed directly toward the condensed inferno. A vermilion bird cried out from within, its voice shaking the heavens. The 30-foot fireball compressed once more. 20 feet, then 10. Around that final 10-foot sphere circled a vermilion bird many times smaller than before. Its cries echoed continuously from within the compressed flames. A strange light appeared in Du Qing's eyes. He stared without blinking as a terrifying possibility began taking shape in his mind. The vermilion bird was Wang Lin's fire essence body. Wang Lin was drawing the tremendous fire essence of the earth fire vein into that vermilion bird, condensing it again and again. Du Qing's eyes widened. Fear returned to them.
Could he be trying to form an essence true body?
For cultivators of the Immortal Astral Continent, essence was one of the great foundations of the third step. Once a cultivator possessed an essence, they could enter Nirvana Void and use that essence to absorb power from the vast world around them. Corporeal essences were comparatively easier to obtain, but reaching Arcane Void demanded comprehension of an ethereal essence through one's own insight. The principle was simple, but its consequences were enormous. The more essences a cultivator controlled, the broader and more terrifying their foundation became. On the Immortal Astral Continent, this was not secret knowledge. It was one of the central measures separating ordinary third-step cultivators from true monsters. Essences themselves also possessed stages. First came the formation of the essence, then the condensation of an essence treasure. After that came completion. Step by step, layer by layer. But legends spoke of geniuses capable of going beyond even completed essence. They could form an essence true body. Such a thing was exceedingly rare. Once formed, its power was terrifying beyond ordinary comparison. In all of Du Qing's long life, he had seen only one example. The old ancestor of the Great Soul Sect, who possessed a soul essence true body. And now, before his own eyes, Wang Lin seemed to be walking down that same legendary road. No wonder Du Qing's fear deepened instead of fading. Every new secret he discovered about Wang Lin only made his earlier decision to fight him seem more reckless. First came Wang Lin's methods, then the golden print, and now the possibility of an essence true body. To Du Qing, the man he had chased was becoming more unfathomable by the hour. And for us watching this path unfold, the significance is difficult to ignore. Wang Lin has only just arrived on the Immortal Astral Continent, yet instead of shrinking beneath its unfamiliar cultivation system, he is already forcing local experts to reinterpret what they thought possible. The newcomer is learning the rules, but he is also beginning to bend them around himself. Far away from the Heavenly Bull Continent, The ancient countries stretched across 35 states. The Ancient Dao Country alone occupied 12 of them, and within Sky States stood its royal capital. There, among green mountains and a raging river, autumn leaves drifted through the air. Deep within those mountains stood a towering blue altar that seemed to have endured the erosion of countless ages. Upon that ancient altar sat a young-looking man dressed in black. His appearance was youthful, yet the aura surrounding him carried the weight of immeasurable years. One glance was enough to feel that this was someone who had walked through ages ordinary cultivators could scarcely imagine. He was Xuan Luo. At the very moment Wang Lin had taken out the golden print on the Heavenly Bull continent, Xuan Luo, who had been secluded in closed-door cultivation, suddenly opened his eyes. A smile appeared on his face.
He is coming.
Xuan Luo understood immediately. The disciple he had personally chosen had not perished within the void. Wang Lin had survived. And now, at last, he had reached the Immortal Astral Continent. Du Qing sees Wang Lin's arrival as his own heavenly fortune. Xuan Luo sees it as the return of the disciple he chose. But for Wang Lin himself, this is only the beginning. One golden print has already stirred forces separated by vast distances, and the deeper he steps into the Immortal Astral Continent, the harder it will become for the great powers of this world to remain unaware of him.